Welcome everybody to another episode of Fins Nation. I'm your host Louis Song, and today we're going to be talking about some things that happened on Twitter. Oh, what a shock. Something happened on Twitter. Well, this time it's actually Tyreek Hill who did the tweeting, and he didn't even say anything that had anything to do with Tua in context. But here we are again, doing the whole Tua Tagovailoa is the center of everyone's universe. Whether you like him, whether you hate him, whether you think he's the best quarterback Miami's had since Dan Marino, or the worst thing that's ever happened to the team since Ryan Tannehill. I don't know. At this point, you can make up anything and it'll somehow relate back to Tua Tagovailoa. We'll get into exactly what was said, but first, before we get too far into it, gonna go ahead and mention that our lead sponsor for this show is You Break Wheel Fix. You Break Wheel Fix is a wheel repair and remanufacturing company with over 20 years of experience. They specialize in complete wheel repair, repairing wheels from curb rash, bends, and cracks. They also specialize in refinishing, polishing, machining, and custom colors that will suit your car's needs. Lastly, You Break Wheel Fix offers a full array of factory and custom wheel and tire applications. Contact them at 305-748-0112 or at You Break Wheel Fix on all social media platforms. Again, if you really want to go ahead and show off your Dolphins fandom, get yourself some custom Dolphins colored wheels, go to You Break Wheel Fix on all social media platforms to hit them up there, or you can give them a call at 305-748-0112. This show is also brought to you by PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is the revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues, whether you want to go all NFL, all NBA, or if you want, you can add the MLB to the mix because now opening day has come and gone. So if you're a fan of baseball, you can start picking the over or the under on those kinds of players. So whether you want to choose individual stats or the classic fantasy point projections, it's up to you to decide. They will give you free squares, they'll give you Taco Tuesday promos, Flex Friday specials where you can get your money back if you lose or multiply the amount of money you can normally win, which by the way, that is today as you are listening to this. With offers like that, it's hard to justify not signing up. So use the promo code 5, that's F-I-V-E, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. Again, that's promo code 5, F-I-V-E. Go to PrizePicks.com, use that promo code, sign up, deposit up to $100, and they will match up to $100. So you have a free $100 to play with on their dime. Go to PrizePicks.com, use the promo code 5, and get started today. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so let's get into the drama that's going on now. So yesterday, Tyreek Hill quote tweeted a video of himself with the Kansas City Chiefs where essentially he was just running around like a crazy person. Coach Dan Casey is the one that he quote tweeted, and he called it a squirrel route. So Tyreek was zigzagging across the field, getting away from people, and then he ultimately just went down to the floor to avoid getting absolutely clobbered. So that was the first tweet that he made. So Tyreek Hill says, quote, the tweet's still there. You can go look up his account if you want. It says, small receivers, run your route, get upfield, and get down. They're coming to take your head off, which is basically Tyreek's way of saying, listen, I'm not looking to get pounded because I need to survive for the next play. I've already gotten the yards that I need. I'm going to survive and live to fight another day. Because Tyreek Hill is not the biggest dude on the field, so it's completely understandable why he would want to avoid taking a big hit when it isn't necessary. Now, an hour later, the next tweet comes out where it says, the best ability is availability. Don't let them fool you. And then he puts a little emoji of like shades and whatever. But here's the problem. Even though that tweet had absolutely nothing to do with a certain someone who plays quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, naturally, all the trolls came out and said something. Here we go. Here, I can just go ahead and pull up some. Jeremy Clump, who is constantly around knocking Tua down. Damn, he didn't need to do Tua dirty like this, bro. And he just puts a sad Tua gif. So, and a lot of people, everybody says, like JD Fins fan, uh-oh, and here we go with the Joker gif. It's all the same stuff, man. It's always the same thing. No matter what you say, no matter what you do, this is the obsession with Tua Tagovailoa. I have never seen a fan base get so hyped up or so worked up over one single person before in my entire life. I thought it was bad when Ryan Tannehill was here, and the fan base was split on him. But when Tannehill's final years were coming around, everybody had kind of agreed, you know what, yeah, I think it's finally time to move on from him and get someone else. That finally was the unifying moment. With Tua, though, oh my gosh, man. This is just showing, once again, proof positive. It really doesn't matter what is said, what is done. I really believe that Tua could win a Super Bowl, and they would find a way to tell everybody how, well, you know, it wasn't all because of Tua. It was just because Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle did all the work. Raheem Mostert ran for 1,000 yards. Vic Fangio fixing the defense did it. It doesn't matter. there are people who are going to say Tua is the only reason they won, and the Dolphins won in spite of Tua. The extremes. The only thing Tyreek Hill has not done is basically gone the Deshaun Elliott route, where he's basically saying, everybody chill, that's not what I meant. Tyreek didn't say that. He didn't say that's not what I meant, because it's plainly obvious as the hair on his head that he did not mean to say that Tua is never available. That never crossed his mind. He was talking about himself. He was talking about other receivers who are his size. This had nothing to do with Tua. Period. End of story. He even, like how blunt can you get that he literally quote tweeted the video that he was referencing that tweet to? It was literally a video of him avoiding taking a hit, and then he says that it's good to be available. And everybody took it as a Tua tweet. Now, I'm sure that there are some people out there who are looking at this and saying, well, we know that it's not about Tua, but we're going to make it about Tua anyway because this is what we do. We want to prove our point that Tua is a fragile quarterback. He's not the answer because he'll only be available for a maximum of 10 games if the Dolphins are lucky. It's tiring, everyone. It really is. To constantly have to do this back and forth with people about whether Tua's good, Tua's bad, Tua's not healthy, Tua is either the greatest thing ever or he's the worst thing ever. At the end of the day, whether anybody likes it or not, and I've seen some people go on podcasts, I've listened to some radio segments, and people that I respect, people that I've listened to, people that I've talked to on a regular basis, some of these people are saying some incredibly ridiculous things in regards to Tua Tagovailoa. And the level of disagreement that I have with what they say, it could not be higher. The other day, I listened to something along the lines of why the Miami Dolphins picking up the fifth-year option actually makes Tua even more tradable than he was before. That the Dolphins picking up the fifth-year option was not proof positive that they are committed to Tua. So basically, there's no winning here. Because by saying that, you are saying that, oh, it's not the actions that matter, it's the words. The words match up too! Mike McDaniel, again, like if you listen to the interview with Mike Silver, which if you haven't yet, you absolutely should. The simple fact of the matter is, Mike McDaniel wants Tua. He raved about Tua for 20 minutes on that interview, talking about how he was the perfect fit for the offense he wanted, how he needed to build Tua's confidence back up, and when he felt like he basically let it rip and showed everybody what he could do in his prime. What is the problem here? It almost seems like people are more determined to be right about their initial impressions of Tua than they are to actually have a good quarterback. You literally have a dude who ended the season above Patrick Mahomes in passer rating. He was number one in multiple quarterback categories. The only thing he was not able to do was stay healthy the whole season. And I think last season there were a total of 4 quarterbacks. 4! Who actually managed to play the whole season. So we're talking about Tua like he's this uniquely fragile individual. He's not. We're just overly sensitive Dolphins fans. These are the moments where I struggle to find more to say. Because how many times can you say the exact same thing and it not get boring? How many times do you have to defend this kid? Like there are people like Robert Griffin III, Dan Orlovsky. They come out every day and they seem like they have to be on defense because everybody is convinced that Tua is absolutely nothing. But they like Mike McDaniel. Oh, wait, you like the coach. But the quarterback that he is on record as saying there is literally no one else in the NFL that I prefer to have than this guy because everything that he does is the perfect fit for my offense. But you don't like that guy. You like the coach, but not the quarterback. The way that he's talking, you can't have one without the other. So how can you like the coach and not the player? They're practically joined at the hip. In some ways, I think it's good that the draft is coming up. And again, I am no expert on the draft. I will be asking a lot of people that I know who are very good draft evaluators. Hussam Patel at the Scouting Combine, you should check him out. Obviously, the 3 yards per carry crew, Simon Clancy, Alfredo Arteaga, Chris Kaufman, all those guys. I'm going to be asking them a lot. Brandon Howard, if you haven't seen him and doing his tweets, he's a really good evaluator as well. I trust and respect his opinions. Because if nothing else, having the draft to talk about might distract some people from the Tua nonsense. The Miami Dolphins have backed up their actions with words and their words with actions. Tua is the quarterback. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. For at least the next 2 years, Tua is the quarterback. And if he puts together a performance, even if he only plays for like 12 games, but he puts together a performance like he did last season, I guarantee you they're going to be talking extension. Because you don't throw away that kind of performance and just act like it's nothing because, oh, he didn't play 4 games because he missed because he got a bum ankle or something along those lines. What did he play like when he was on the field? Was he an elite superstar quarterback level of player? You keep that. You find a way to keep that. Because where are you going to find it elsewhere? There's a reason Lamar Jackson is not getting signed, everybody. And it's not collusion or some kind of conspiracy to make sure he doesn't get paid. It's because teams are not willing to invest that much money into one guy and not have an escape hatch. Any team that signs Lamar Jackson to the contract that he is demanding is not going to be able to put a lot of pieces around him. People are arguing that the Ravens didn't put Lamar Jackson in position to succeed. You could obviously easily make that argument. He was on a rookie contract. They should have done more. After you pay him, what's the excuse now? You can't afford it. If he's taking up 40% of your salary cap, eventually you're going to have to make decisions that you're not going to want to make. Who do you sacrifice in order to make sure you get to keep your quarterback? All this talk about how Lamar Jackson needs to have weapons so he can finally maximize his potential. What weapons are you going to afford when you have to pay him $20, $30, $40 million a year? That's a huge chunk of your salary. So is the defense going to suck? Is the offensive line going to suck? Are the wide receivers going to suck? Are the running backs going to suck? Or are you just going to settle to have one good player at each position and then everybody else is just whatever? And then Lamar Jackson will figure out the rest. Is Lamar Jackson that great? Is he so elite that he can make up for everything else? If that were the case, the Ravens would have made the Super Bowl by now. But he's not that great. He's elite. He's a top 5 quarterback. Some would even say top 3. But you need pieces. You need help. Every quarterback on this planet, even Patrick Mahomes, needs good players around him to be successful. And if you're paying him a bunch of money, unless another player is willing to take a pay cut just for the honor of playing for the vaunted Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs, like so many players have shown they're willing to, unless that happens, you're not going to have that much talent in certain areas. And it will be seen as a weakness to be exploited. So here's Tua. And he plays at an elite level when he's healthy. And he's on a cheap contract, which allows the Dolphins to pay for the likes of Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Howard, for the likes of Bradley Chubb, for the likes of Tyreek Hill. And they're able to pay a bunch of other really good role players. Raheem Mostert almost ran for 1,000 yards. Jeff Wilson almost ran for 1,000 yards. They're not superstars, but they're really good players. You're able to pay a Cedric Wilson. And even then, they may still cut his salary anyway. But I digress. You have people around Tua that can make him shine. Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. You were able to find Jamar Chase. And you have T. Higgins. And you have Tyler Boyd. And you have Joe Mixon. They have a lot of weapons. The moment they decide we are going to extend Joe Burrow to his big contract, watch how many players don't get brought back. And Joe Burrow's going to have to make up that slack. And we'll see if he can do it. So you press that advantage as long as you can. That is your main Super Bowl window. You find a quarterback who can get the job done. You take advantage of it while you still can. Alfredo Arteaga said something in OnlyFins, which, by the way, is about $3 a month. You make sure that you get in there if you haven't yet. It's really good Dolphins talk in there. Tyreek said that the best ability is availability. Alfredo says, you can keep your availability if you suck. I'll take the guy who can play like a superstar player, but he's only playing about 3/4 of the time. Because those 3/4 of the time, you're going to get the best product available, and the other 1/4, well, you'll just have to survive until then. I can understand that position. Teron Armstead. That's a perfect example. Teron Armstead was injured the whole season. He was supposed to sit out the season, and he kept playing anyway. And even with his toe, his knee, his pec, his everything, his whole body was basically bruised up from his head to his toes. Literally his toes. And he still went out there and played at an elite level. How many games did he miss? 3, 4? Okay, that's about a quarter of the season. But you know what? Those games that he was in there, it made such a huge difference. Yes, availability is important. But if you're somebody who's reliably there all the time, but you're not that great a player, I'll definitely take the guy who's not always there but can play like a superstar over the guy who's constantly there but doesn't do a whole lot. That's a really good argument, and it's hard to dispute it. So the next time you're thinking about, well, Tua's never available, just ask yourself, what are you willing to sacrifice to get a more reliable upgrade? What are you willing to give up? Because again, to have this fantasy of Lamar Jackson on the Dolphins, who are you giving up? What pieces around him? Because I got news for you. If you think you're going to get Lamar Jackson paired with Tyreek Hill, you've got another thing coming. Because Tyreek is probably one of the main contracts that they're going to have to dump because of how huge it is. Because you can't afford all of them at once. Or, alternatively, you can keep Lamar Jackson with Tyreek, but you won't get to extend Jalen Waddle. You're going to have to probably dump Xavier Howard and Jalen Ramsey, who you just brought back. You may have to dump Bradley Chubb, and you're going to have to rely on some young players to step up and ball. Which, are you confident in that? You might be confident in Vic Fangio, but doesn't mean the talent's the same. There's a reason these guys are paid the way they are. Are you going to sacrifice Javon Holland in the future? Are you going to sacrifice Jalen Phillips when his time comes? Are you going to sacrifice Christian Wilkins? You can't pay everybody. There comes a time when the talent sheds. The Saints, the Rams, you can't afford it all the time. Tua may not be available for all 17 games of the season. But you know what? If he's available for only 13, those are games that I know for sure we've got a really good shot at being 13-0 in. We're going to go ahead and call it here. Thank you, everybody, for listening to my rant. This is one of the things that Hussam and Ron and all these guys, they like to get me on one of these tangents. But it kind of felt good to get it out this time because I've been holding back a lot. But today I just felt the need to go off. People are being ridiculous, and it's time we all took a step back and took a moment to appreciate what we have right now on this roster. Even if you don't like Tua, look at the rest of this roster. It is loaded with talent. This is the year, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Super Bowl run right here. If Tua can play the way that he played in all those games where he was putting up number one passer in the NFL type of numbers, you can be darn sure Miami has a great shot at winning it all. If you haven't already checked them out, go to U-Break Wheel Fix to get yourself some custom-made wheels so you can show off your Dolphins fandom in style. They're a wheel repair and remanufacturing company. They got 20 years of experience. They can repair your wheels from curb rash, from bends, from cracks. They can refinish your wheels, polish them, machine them, give you the custom colors that I mentioned already. Get your Dolphins colors, get your Heat colors. Get whatever colors you want, man. It's U-Break Wheel Fix. They'll be able to do whatever they want for you. They offer a full array of factory and custom wheel and tire applications. All you got to do is reach out to them at 305-748-0112, or you can look them up at U-Break Wheel Fix on all social media platforms. Get your wheels upgraded today. Again, it's 305-748-0112. Give them a call and start showing your fandom off in style wherever you go. And of course, if you haven't already, go to PrizePicks.com. Use the promo code 5. That's FIVE. They will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up using that promo code. So you put in $100, they give you $100 on their dime, and you can go ahead and start winning today. Today is Flex Friday. Make sure you're taking advantage of those offers while they're still there. Again, PrizePicks.com. Use the promo code 5. Get started today. We will see you all next week for another round of Fins Nation.